In this one we'll be asking, what is a message bus and why should you care? Message buses are like subways for our system. They act as a central hub where all your applications can connect and send and receive messages. It removes the need for service discovery, and it's way more lightweight than HTTP. It also has guaranteed message delivery and can support complex routing, such as queues, topics and fanout exchanges, making it a great choice for surgically distributing systems. So picture this, your website does something heavy. Let's say it downloads a video from YouTube, transcribes the text out of it using an AI model, and then displays it on the screen. There are several fundamental challenges with this. One, you're going to need a graphics card to run the AI model quickly. Your web server doesn't tend to have that. And adding one behind all your web boxes is probably very expensive, especially in the current climate. 2, this process takes some time, and there's only so much time you'll be able to shave off there. Combined with the fact that most people have the attention span of a gnat, we're probably going to need to process these before the user even gets to the page. Number 3, the scattered truth that you're going to have to deal with the moment you start thinking about distributed systems, because it's quite hard to debug if your logs are scattered across 4 different servers. Message queues will help us with all of these problems. Number 1, where you have graphics cards that aren't on your web server, we're going to have to send the process request to a different box. This is exactly what message queues are for, so we're absolutely fine here. RabbitMQ, for instance, will facilitate that really easily. Number 2, this takes a long time and we probably need to get a start before the user even tries to look at the transcript. Because message queues allow our website just to send messages and then completely forget about it, this is perfect. The moment the user logs in, we can work out what videos they haven't transcribed yet, get the latest ones, and send them off to the message queues. This will take a fraction of a second, the user won't even notice we've done it. The fragmented source of truth problem is also easy. We can now stream all our logs straight through the message queue, so they end up in one place and can be read by multiple consumers. So now we know what we're going to use to solve the problem, and why we're doing it, we need to get to the how. Let's dive into the architecture I designed this week to do this. At the top of the architecture we have my website. This is pretty dumb and has no services beneath it, it's just an all-in-one package because I need to be able to develop fast. All I did was to write a library that allows it to talk to RabbitMQ through async.io. On the RabbitMQ side we have 3 channels to talk between applications. We've got 2 permanent queues, download video and transcribe video. We also have a single fanout exchange for logging, which is where all our logs go to be aggregated and then sent out to anyone listening. On the microservice process side, we have 2 processes. The first is video download YT service, which downloads the actual video. The second one is video transcribe service. Both of these services are written in Python. The reason I chose to use 2 different services instead of 1 is that the actual transcription can only really be run one at a time on this box. I don't have enough graphics memory to run them more than one at a time. Whereas the download service can actually handle many in parallel, currently set to 4. The other great thing about message queues is if I need more processing, I can spin up duplicate copies on different boxes and they will pick up the load. It's actually a great way of scaling an application. It's important to note that each component is completely independent. The only reason it knows about each other is the messages that it sends backwards and forwards. With regards to messages, we have 3 real types: download, subscribe, and logs. All messages are sent with fire and forget. What's the worst that happens if we fail to deliver a message? A user just won't have the video ready when they go to click on it, which is going to happen anyway because we're never going to guess with certainty which videos they intend to look at. If they look at one that's not in our auto download list, they're going to have to wait anyway. It's important to note here that unless you need guaranteed delivery, you shouldn't use it because that will slow down your system. So how are these messages going to flow? From the website, we're going to send one type of message. This will be a download request and it'll be sent in one of 2 scenarios. 1, the user logs in. We're going to determine the last 5 videos they produced that haven't been transcribed and send them off. The second usage scenario is when someone clicks on a video to see its transcription. If the video isn't in the database, we'll send off a single message to say, hey, download this video. The video downloader does 2 things. It checks to see if the video's already been transcribed. If it hasn't, it will download it. Once the video's downloaded to a central point that both services can see, it will send off a single message saying, hey, transcribe this video. It then kicks into action to check if the video's been transcribed again. Again, these services are independent, they don't know of each other. Transcription's very expensive, and so these dedupe checks are probably way cheaper than accidentally transcribing a video twice. In most cases, they actually run in sub-millisecond. Then if the model isn't loaded into the graphics card, we load it, then we pass the video into the model, and then we transcribe the video. Once we've got the transcript back, we just bulk load this into the database. Because I'm using stored procedures, this is absolutely rapid. The website itself doesn't really care if a video's been transcribed, except when a user has just requested it. Rather than all the overhead of setting up a subscription loop, we simply just check to see if the video is in the database. I currently do this every 2 seconds, but I plan on determining this based on the duration of the video in future once I have enough data to back it up. Now, all the time that this has been happening, these processes have also been sending back logs to the fanout exchange. The way my log reader and log recorder work is they simply create a temporary queue, attach it to the exchange, and then they'll get all the messages from the exchange. If nothing's attached, the exchange will drop the messages, and it's very cheap. There is one other killer feature of a message queue that we haven't talked about yet, and that is that they deal with extreme load. They're also designed to work gracefully, i.e. if the server starts to overload, most message queues will send TCP/IP back pressure to slow down incoming network traffic. This means that in general, message queues will handle way more load than your web server will. From your customer's perspective, the system will just be slower, not down. Working with message queues can be a real change in paradigm, but once you get the hang of it, you'll be able to design systems you've never dreamt of designing before. One comment I've had from both senior developers and junior architects is, why are we using a message queue? That just means all our processing will be deferred, and that's bad. But that's not true. Real-time processing is all about how many messages you can process per second, not necessarily how you process them. And what some don't realise, because it's well hidden from you, is the entirety of the software stack is built on queues. And we have absolutely no problem calling that real-time. For some real examples, you have the OS task scheduler, you have threads, you have buffers, and you have even the stack trace itself, which is also a kind of LIFO queue. Not to mention networking, where you're sending traffic over the wire. All the way through this video, you've been seeing structured logs flow through RabbitMQ. Whilst these are truly terrible for our eyes to read, they're great for computers to do things with them. Want to build an event-based dashboard? It's very easy. If you want to learn how to change your logging game from very simple, easy for humans to read, to more computer readable, in the next video I'll show you how to transition to structured logging. That video will be available top left as soon as it's ready. And with that, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.